Xenas Gun was heavily teased since 2022 and was finally available for purchase in 2024. It was made by Ugo Solutions, which is run by Ugo Odukwe. The Xenas Gun is a versatile PC-compatible light gun-gyro gun hybrid, which is customizable via a companion program. During its project life, this light gun was often referred to as X-Gun, written with a dash, but in order to avoid confusion with the Chinese light gun of the same name, this review will stick to the name Xenas Gun. First and foremost, the Xenas Gun is a passion project of Ugo, mostly made for himself. He's willing to assemble controllers for interested individuals and sells them via Instagram, but it's not a high-volume product of any sort. Since the controller initially has been teased on the Arcade Controls forum, the gun has changed its form a lot. In fact, during the few weeks between receiving the controller and making this review, the design again underwent major changes, and I expect it to remain an ever-changing and improving project. One of the Xenas Gun's most distinctive features is its duality as both a light gun and a gyro gun, much like the other X-Gun. Similar to a Wii Remote with Motion Plus, the Xenas Gun combines the gyro information with the IR tracking in an attempt to enhance accuracy. Another thing that lets the Xenas Gun stand out is the ability to choose one of multiple IR reference spot patterns for the tracking. As of making this video, 9 different tracking patterns are available. Later in the review I will discuss each one in detail. Ugo is not an electronics engineer, but a talented thinker. With the Xenas Gun being an early project for him, there are a few things I think could have been done better. Up-and-coming developers will find themselves in a very similar situation, fighting against similar beginner problems. To be as much of a help as I can, I will point out opportunities and potential stepping stones to bring not only him, but also people in the same shoes forward. The Xenas Gun is pretty big, surpassing the Namco G-Con by a fair amount. It weighs about 773 grams, which, considering that the center mass of it is towards the front, feels like a lot. The grip is shaped nicely, and albeit the high weight, the Xenas Gun is substantially more comfortable to hold than, for example, the Sinden light gun. The outer shell seems sturdy, but the gun itself is frail and has to be babyed a bit. The shell is 3D printed and is held together with metal thread screws that made in nuts at the opposite side, like many arcade guns do. At the Xenas Gun, the screws are oftentimes much longer than they need to be, and because they are paired with through-hole nuts, the screws sometimes protrude a lot. The side picture is held back by the 3 top screws of the shell, which stick into the visual path, and by the Picatinny-style rail, which is also in the way. While theoretically the Xenas Gun could be used with a Picatinny rail to smartphone adapter to play mobile games, in practice this is not feasible, because the Picatinny rail is just held pretty loose by screws which are intended for wood. Furthermore, the rail isn't accessible to slide-on accessories, because it is obstructed by a redundant second front side, which is pierced by a long screw, creating 2 points of collusion. In the front of the gun is a bright orange adapter ring, which accepts cellular phone accessory-style lenses. My unit came shipped with a fisheye lens, which, while distorting the image a lot, allows for a pretty low minimal needed distance. The fisheye lens needs to be removed though when playing from a higher distance, because it affects the light sensitivity of the gun. This is crucial because sadly the IR sensor sensitivity of the Xenas Gun can't be adjusted. The action buttons A, B, X and Y are distributed in pairs at the sides on the very front of the gun. Each pair consists of a black and a white button, which look similar but use different switches and as such can be told apart by the key feeling. The black ones feel a tad bit scratchy and seem frailer, as one of them lost its mounting ring during playtesting. To my great delight, the Xenas Gun has a grip and a heel button. Both are very convenient to reach from a natural handstance. The buttons performed well in my tests and activated reliably. The linear trigger operates by pressing a piece of foam against a pressure-sensitive potentiometer pad, much like I have shown in episode 239 at the Roland FD8 drum pedal. In the software, the user is able to define the required force threshold for the shots. While I went for a hairline trigger, I appreciate the idea a lot. After a short while, both the potentiometer pad and the foam came loose, but I was able to remedy the issue with a more potent adhesive. Below the LCD screen there is a clickable analog joystick which is angled towards the thumb, which is a nice nod towards ergonomic design. Although the plastic cutout around the joystick is large, this is not sufficient still to allow the stick complete free movement. My unit collides towards the bottom left. At the belly of the gun is a programmable pump handle. It actuates a linear potentiometer and is held under tension by a rubber band. Personally, I would have preferred seeing a metal compression or tension spring in the mechanism. Another point of critique is that the pump handle uses the potentiometer's available range of movement as a stopcock. Such potentiometers are not made to bear high forces, and indeed mine broke while playing. It would be a better solution to restrict the range of movement by a sturdy plastic piece in the shell of the gun. At the left-hand side towards the front are programmable RGB LED lights. These can be set up to change their color at certain events. The white X at the opposite side is also a light, the brightness of which can be controlled in the companion app. Under the backside is a color LCD monitor, which can be set up to show the controller status or in-game information. The force feedback of the Xenas Gun relies on a vibration module and a little solenoid. Both can be configured in the companion software. In case of the solenoid, the cadence of the full auto firing can be adjusted and the fire mode can be selected, but the hold timing and thus the strength of the kickback can't be tweaked. One of the fire modes allows the gun to pretty much behave as in single fire mode, but if the trigger is kept held down, the gun will eventually fire automatically. I like the idea, but in practice the delay duration feels a bit much to me. The way the force feedback is programmed, fast consecutive shots are not possible with the Xenas Gun. For each shot there is somewhat of a cooldown time until the next trigger pull can manage to engage the solenoid again. I know and understand such a behavior of discrete electronics and NE555 timer-based systems, but I came to expect more of microcontroller-based designs. To power the force feedback, Ugo uses a 12 volts battery pack consisting of 3 individual 18650 cells. These packs usually have a capacity of 6800 mAh. Because shipping lithium-ion batteries internationally is a bit of a hassle, Ugo shipped my unit without a battery and I soldered one in myself. The battery is charged via a DC barrel socket in the heel of the gun. The charge state indication is on the accompanying power supply unit. If no wireless operation and no force feedback are desired, the Xenas Gun supposedly could be used running off USB alone. The USB-C socket, which allows tethered operation, is located in front of the trigger guard. Personally, I feel this location is a bit obtrusive, especially knowing that USB-C sockets can be rather delicate. The Unity-based configuration program looks very appealing. At the time of testing the Xenas Gun, however, I experienced several issues with the software that make it feel unfinished. The gun won't connect to the software via USB. Just Bluetooth can be used for that. For configuration, the software is able to connect to the gun by itself and doesn't need the operation system to set up a so-called Human Interface Device or HID. In order to send inputs to the computer though, the Xenas Gun needs to be set up as HID. The Xenas app allows the player to choose an invalid device name, which stops the Microsoft Windows Bluetooth wizard from connecting to the gun. In such a case, the player has to manually remove the entry from the device manager by making non-connected devices visible. The main window of the program has no scroll bar and will hide entries if the resolution or Windows font and size scaling is not set up as expected. Some bars, such as the scroll bar at the test and settings screen, or any horizontal slide bar, may move on their own and demand a second click in order to stay put, which can be a hassle when attempting to reach a particular value. Sometimes a restart helps. A restart is also necessary if the controller window is closed accidentally. In the button layout tab, the user can change the mode of the gun. If the user desires to change any of the button mappings, one of the 3 custom profiles have to be chosen and edited. Other than that, there are multiple presets, such as light gun, gyro gun, flight stick and drawing pen. 2 function layers can be assigned to the potentiometer-based inputs, depending on how far they are engaged. Apart from buttons, functions can also be assigned to shaking the gun. In test and settings, the left-hand side shows in real time the pressed inputs and gyro sensing. The top row of buttons lets the player test force feedback and calibrate the joystick. On the right-hand side, several settings such as system sleep timer, various thresholds, LED color and functionality, force feedback, and LCD properties can be changed. In motion sensor, the sensitivity of the gyro to mouse translation can be dialed in. The calibration button allows the player to get rid of drift issues. In the infrared sensor tab, a projection of the IR sensor tracking can be seen. The button over the little screen lets the player choose among 9 different IR referent light patterns, which will also dramatically affect the tracking algorithm. The player can select whether the game runs in full screen or 4:3 with a bezel in this section. For some light patterns, the player has to dial in the monitor's diagonal width in this window. In my opinion, there's an error in the tracking calculation of the 2V light bar style modes. I have to change the screen width value way off the truth in order to compensate for my player to screen distance. I think that the Xenas Gun assumes an exactly defined point-to-point distance for the V-like tracking, and using a light bar any different from that will mess with the accuracy. Sadly, the sensitivity of the IR sensor can't be changed in this tab. Sensitivity is of paramount importance when using IR tracking, in order to avoid parasite light messing with tracking and getting stable readings at various distances. This also affects the pool size of suitable IR light sources considerably. Calibrating the Xenas Gun is exclusively done in the infrared sensor tab. Sadly, calibration relies on a single calibration point and the configurator doesn't offer any options to tweak it manually. This means that if there are issues with scaling and such, the accuracy can go way off when aiming towards the screen edges. That there is no on-the-fly calibration possibility on the controller itself de facto necessitates the configuration app to run along the game in order to be able to quickly fix calibration at 2 reference point systems whenever the player moves too much. This in turn necessitates permanent Bluetooth connection even when playing tethered. The information tab is where the player would enter the personal firmware key to unlock the controller when first received. Other than that, this tab shows some information and allows the gun to be factory resetted and to be power cycled in case it got stuck somehow. In the discussion of the Xenas Gun's performance, I would like to start with accuracy and precision of the individual IR light gun modes, because I think this is the strength of the controller. In the mode where 4 IR reference points are in the center of the edges, like the Gun for IR system does it, accuracy and precision are perfect from the point of calibration. Even though being a 4 reference point system, the accuracy decreases when changing the player to screen distance and when playing at an angle after calibration. While the quality remains decent under these conditions, there is a notable difference to other trapezoid tracking controllers, like for example the Sinden light gun or the aforementioned Gun for IR. The tracking mode with 2 spots in the bottom 2 corners of the screen works very precise and accurate from the location of calibration. As to be expected, like it is for all 2-point solutions, accuracy gets worse when changing the distance and angle towards the screen after calibration. The tracking mode, which relies on a V-style light bar, is unusable if it is set up as it is intended. I suspect that the software precisely needs a certain point-to-point distance to get the internal calculations right. The player has to tell the software the diagonal width of the screen for the tracking. With my bars, the tracking is way wrong if I enter the factual number and I have to deviate from it in order to allow the calibration to reach good accuracy. If dialed in well, this tracking mode performs as good as the mode with the 2 spots in the bottom 2 corners. Another mode uses 2 V-style bars, like a later revision of the Semco project did. 1 light bar is put on the top of the monitor and 1 on the bottom, giving the IR sensor 4 points to track. This mode doesn't have to know the screen width anymore. In my tests, on point of calibration, Accuracy and precision were just decent. Accuracy gets notably worse when aiming towards the edges of the screen. When changing distance and angle to the TV after calibration, the accuracy decreases more notably than in the modes I have shown so far. The Xenas Gun offers some original reference spot patterns. One of them is the triangle, with one light in the top center edge and two lights in the bottom corners. In this mode, accuracy is just decent. It's fine close to the center of the screen, but gets worse towards the screen edges. When changing distance and angle after calibration, the accuracy worsens very quickly. There are two patterns with just one reference light point each. One mode has it at the top edge center and one at the bottom edge center. Both modes perform pretty comparable. The same I said for the triangle mode is valid here, but everything is a little bit worse in this one-point tracking. The Xenas Gun performs very well as a gyro gun. It uses the reputable in-even sense MPU 6050 sensor, which provides the Xenas Gun 3 axes of tracking and doubles as accelerometer. The gyro sensitivity just can be set up in the configurator. It is possible to map one of the buttons as gyro cutoff, which is great to recenter the controller when it inevitably lost the 0 position. Sadly, the joystick of the Xenas Gun can't move the mouse without third-party programs such as Joy2Key. Personally, I enjoy resetting the 0 position of gyro guns with joystick or touchpad and would have appreciated the ability. The Chinese X-Gun allowed users to set up a gyro sensing threshold that acted a bit like a joystick dead zone and helped to prevent gyro drift. Ever since I experienced that, I miss that feature on every other gyro controller. Personally, I like the Xenas Gun. It's a great achievement from Ugo to make and program a light gun and companion software all by himself. It performs very well in the 4-point center edge and both 2-points modes, and I enjoyed using it. For a while, the retro gaming scene was flooded by unauthorized Samco rip-offs, and it's charming to see a new developer with independent designs. Nevertheless, right now I would just recommend the Xenas Gun to do-it-yourself enthusiasts, which can easily fix and adapt the controller if necessary. Multiple taped and glued portions of the gun came loose while testing and needed reattachment. 2 parts broke. The PCB had several cold solder joints and quit working within a short time. After completely reflowing the board using a blade tip solder iron, the gun worked charmingly though. The configuration app acts up sometimes, and once it gave me a blue screen. It's quite early in the Xenas Gun's life cycle, and I expect many issues to be tackled in future iterations of this controller. Potential customers with a limited technology skill set might want to wait a little bit until future revisions of the Xenas Gun reviews more favorably. This is the end of the review. My name is Ben. I thank you for viewing.